How we doing this very day, Mike?
Beautiful day, Frank.
Yeah,
Glad to be back with you.
Yeah, we got a little rain this morning.
I know. Monsoons are upon us. It's great.
Yeah.
We're breaking out of summer heat.
That's it. So, Arizona, when we see rain, we get really excited.
Oh, hell yeah. That's our snow day.
That's a snow day.
Yeah. When we see the monsoons coming, that's the only little sliver of hope we get during the desert heat.
I counted the drops. It was like 20.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I will take it.
Yeah.
You have a good week?
Really good week.
Good.
So how did how did your week go?
It was awesome. I really focused on my breathing this week. Very, very, very focused. I kept bringing my attention back to the breathing, and it was a great week. Less stressful. I was able to accomplish more. I noticed myself having a better focus when it came to different tasks, just whether that was work or conversations with friends and family. I was more present because of the breath.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to talk about today anyway. Like a lot of this stuff, when you're actually doing the breath work, you actually feel really well or feel really good when you're doing it, like working out or different activities. But there's something else going on. It's actually priming you up to a different level to where other possibilities come into your field of awareness. So today's theme, we'll talk about creating your own awareness or pulling in circumstance, situation that you would like to see happen, whether it's in your relationships, your health, business, whatever it is, finance, whatever it is. Today's breath work we're going to talk about is going to be a different pattern of breathing, but this is going to generate a different field of energy in the body. It's actually going to move spinal fluid up the spinal column into your brain and activate the pineal gland. And essentially what this is again, I'm not a neurologist. I don't know anything about that other than what I've read. I've never studied the brain and looked at the brain. Mm-hmm. But what we're doing is activating the pineal gland, and supposedly the pineal gland is made up of a calcium crystalline. So we're going to activate that, get that resonate in a higher frequency. And when that happens, we start to feel better. And what we're doing is creating a bigger torus around us, a bigger electromagnetic field.
And when we're feeling better, we are healing. Yeah, we are, and that's a big thing too that I want to mention. That when you feel good, your body is actually healing. And we kind of write that off like, oh no, I just feel good. No, when you feel good, when you feel whole, when your heart is full, when you have that feeling of love, you are upregulating genes within the body. You are actually physically healing, and that is so powerful.
Yeah, and then it gives you more of the what they call attitude of gratitude. So when you're feeling better, it's easy to stay in a better state. So part of what we're going to talk about today is like getting into these type of breathing techniques. Because some of these, me and Mike, we did it this morning before we came in.
It was great.
And it's like it's a 20-minute in total. I think it's 15 minutes, the actual breathing, and then it's 5 minutes. We're going to put the video up online for you guys and actually give a little tag for it so you can get to it to practice it.
Yep.
But and there's plenty of them out there. But this is like a workout. And if you can, I suggest doing this every day. If you can't, at least do it once a week. And so when I say do it once a week and see what happens in that day and a couple of days after, and watch it taper off. Mm-hmm. And you'll want to do it every day.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah,
we don't realize it, and when we calm ourselves, when we calm the nerves, when we regulate the nervous system, we begin to experience a more preferential experience is probably the best way to say it. So like the more you can get calm, the more you can get into this present state, this breathing, a focused breathing state, you'll be very surprised at the different situations that unfold shortly thereafter. The conversations with your colleagues or your boss or your employees or whatnot, the conversations between you and your children, the conversations between you and your spouse, you will feel different. And through practice, you begin to see what you're actually doing, because you do breath work once in a while. You're like, oh, that felt good. I got relaxed. But when it's a consistent effort, you start to see it build and grow throughout all facets of life.
Yeah, it's literally like climbing up the building. So the higher you get in the building, the more the city can see. And right now, it's like a lot of people are at this certain level in their life that they want to go. They know that the top of the mountain, at least higher up in where they are, is going to have a greater view, but they haven't experienced it yet. But they've heard about it. They've seen clips about it. They've experienced it through other people. But now's the time for you to experience it. And so when you go in doing these type of breath work activities, you actually start to feel differently. And when you feel differently, then you're at the place where you start looking around. You notice things that you haven't seen before. It's not that they weren't there. It's just that you didn't have the privilege to see it or the privy to see it. You weren't in the place to see what was already available to us. Mm-hmm. And this thing doesn't end, by the way. It keeps going. Again, don't feel anxious about trying to get to the top of the mountain. The goal isn't to get to the top of the mountain. The goal is to walk towards the top of the mountain and enjoy every step along the way. Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about the Dr. Joe Dispenza too, because that's what this video is also, brings into the picture.
Yeah, so I found this video. It's actually this guy named Sandy. I don't know his last name, but it's Breathwork by Sandy. I found him on YouTube. Me and Mike we
He's
listen
great.
to him a lot.
Yeah,
and we actually follow his breathworks. Like every Monday when we meet, we get together and we do a breathwork together along with a meditation afterwards. And this one I found this morning, he actually features one of Joe Dispenza's breathwork
styles or techniques, right?
Yeah, it's a technique, and it's a really good one. I've never seen anyone else use it before, so it's kind of like, obviously, Sandy, who is actually a breathwork specialist,
Correct.
is naming Joe Dispenza in this one.
I love it.
What we'll do is we'll show a clip of the video, and he'll walk us through it. We're not going to show the whole video, obviously, but we'll give you access to it, to where you can click on the video afterwards.
And you've gone through the advanced course of Dr. Joe Dispenza's work. You've done a session. What did you notice about the breath work, or what did you notice about doing this one-on-one with Dr. Joe Dispenza and his team when you went to that retreat?
Oh yeah, it was amazing.
Share a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's almost like going to the gym for the first time, because I've been meditating for a long time. Mm-hmm. And this is a different type of breath work or call it meditation than I've experienced before. It was literally like running a marathon. But yet, when you're doing it, like there were points where like, are we going to stop holding our breath? When's this going to end? Because when you go into one of the retreats with Dr. Joe Dispenza, and you start the meditation, he doesn't say, okay, we're going to do this for 20 minutes. I don't think he knows how long we're going to go. And I think I mentioned this on air before, but one of the meditations we did on one of the mornings was 4.5 hours.
Oh my gosh.
It was a good thing I didn't know it was going to be 4.5 hours. I would have slept in that day and not showed up at the retreat.
Right.
But I don't believe there was a meditation that was under an hour and a half.
That's cool.
And it was throughout the day, throughout the week. It was 7 days. Now, what was interesting about that was when you're there, especially by day 2, day 3, you're really getting into this and you're feeling amazing. All these ideas are coming in. It's like all of a sudden you're like, you can't wait to go to the next Dr. Joe Dispenza's retreat. All right. It's because you're in this amazing state where you're breathing a lot. You're actually amplifying your electromagnetic field, what you consider your torus. Opportunities are coming into your head and all these things are happening. But once you leave there, if you don't understand what's happening, all of a sudden a week or 2, a month, a year later, like, oh man, what's going on? It's because you didn't maintain this focus of breathing and maintain it. It's like if I went to a workout seminar and it was for 7 days, I was working out, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to be in great shape when I come back, a little bit sore, but what have you. But if I don't continue that, and you're thinking like, man, I need to go back there. I'm like, you don't really need to go back there because it was you doing it. You don't need Joe Dispenza is a reminder or someone to implement stuff, but you don't really need to go there. If you need to go there, it's going to be difficult in life because even if you went to every one of his, he only does one, I think, once a month. Mm-hmm.
If that.
If that. And then you have to travel around the world looking for him.
Yeah.
And then forget about the expense of it. But just knowing this, and even listen to a video we're about to show you, if you start implementing this into your life on a daily, start weekly if you want, daily, it's up to you. Whatever you want out of it, how much time you put into it is what exactly you'll get out of it. There's no magic in life. Mm-hmm. If I put my focus on something, I get more of that.
Exactly. And I also think as you are on your path and as you're doing these, this breath work, and you'll begin to notice that like Frank was just mentioning, there's nothing outside of you that's ever going to be the answer. That's probably the easiest way to say it. So there's no teacher that's going to save you. It comes down to you. And the deeper you go, you'll start to see that, I guess the best way to say it, my favorite quote by Ramana Maharshi, there is no other. We keep pointing this finger at this world outside of us, but it's really all coming from within. And it's when you get into this state, everything eases around you. Things begin to flow. Things begin to interact. There is no specific teacher or set of steps or thing you must accomplish to achieve what you're looking for. In fact, there's nothing to achieve. It's learning you've always been there. You're always going to be you're always going to be there. You have access to this, and it's learning to let go of all these old stories.
Yeah, and if there is a thing to achieve, which Mike said, there really isn't, it's how close can I stay to the state and keep elevating the state to higher and higher levels. Yep. And that's what we're here to talk about today. Because even with doing practice like this, and I'm sure there's going to be other breath work, and even with this one, what I do is I get creative with it. There's my creative expression. So I take it to a whole different level. And that's the thing is, when you go there and you learn a breath work type of technique, play with it. Don't just follow. Like in the beginning, in the beginning, listen to it, follow it exactly what they're saying. And then you notice things in your body. I'm like, okay, if I squeeze harder, and you'll know what I'm talking about when you listen to this video, and hold it longer, what will happen? Try that. Like, there's no right or wrong here, you know how far you can go. And every time we go into this nuance of the unknown, and that's kind of what this is all about, we discover something new about who we are. And who we are is the expression of the outside world. So you discover something new in the world, if you will. It's another way of saying that. And that's the brilliance of these type of techniques. And when you start to do this actively, you wake up in the morning and you start doing this breath work, any situation, circumstance that comes out, whether you're, a parent dealing with a child, or a business owner dealing with employees, or an employer dealing with their own, the business, the boss, you're already preset to deal with it. It's kind of like, hey, if you don't want to hurt your back bending over, you better be doing lower back exercise prior to the moment where you have to pick up a box.
Great. Well, good analogy.
Yeah, so this is what we're doing, is we're preempting anything that may come at us, so we're ready to do it. Where most people wait for something to happen and they're not prepared for what's about to happen. And that's what we call anxiety, and that's where fear comes from. Okay, and sometimes you don't know, but like, okay, I have anxiety in my life. Well, this thing keeps, coming up, and I feel the energy of anxiety. Okay, do you think that's ever going to stop? No. Does it happen every day? Well, no. Okay, it's going to come back. So what can you do to get into a state of anxiety and then lower that energy, or get that energy down to a calm state? And breath work is one of them. So putting yourself, and this one it's a rigorous type of breath work for anyone who hasn't done breath work before, but it's actually putting you into this rigorous state to then relax. You're going from here to here. And as you practice that, when your boss yells at you, you're like, yeah, it's not a big deal. I got this. yeah.
But that's the truth. I know, like, I've always hated running my whole life. I've just hated running. I'm not a track guy.
Like, they invented cars. Why are we running?
Not a fan of that. But my girlfriend Kayla and I, we wanted to do a 5K run. That was like a goal of ours to do this year. And so we did that at the beginning of this year. And we actually have another one planned for coming up here in October.
Whose goal was it? You see yours a kid.
I kind of got roped into that goal.
Because I don't have any more goals. My wife does.
It was something we put up on, and we were going to get this done, right? But I remember leading up to that, I made sure, I was going for walks. I was going for jogs. I was preparing for it. I wasn't just going to, go out and, all right, today's the day. It's going to go run, a 5K. So that's exactly like what Frank's talking about here. When we can get ourselves into a comfortable state of breathing, and this is a regular practice for us. When that situation arises, when that fight or flight instinct kicks in, when that chest gets tight, and you're in that whatever that moment is, there's a million ways this scenario can play out. You know what to do, and you know that, hey, I can pull this back, and so it doesn't take this crazy grip on you anymore, where you feel like you're drowning or you feel like you can't breathe. You know what to do, and you go back to the breath. And this is how you work through things like that. It's like climbing up a mountain. In a way, we're training the body, for any and all situations. Anything that comes your way, you can handle. And how do you handle it? You handle it through the breath.
Yeah, and I, as Mike was saying that, I grabbed my phone and pulled up an email. Now, I don't want to get too much into it because I don't know if one of the listeners emailed us a really brilliant email.
This was beautiful.
Yeah.
We were talking about this last night.
So I don't know if we didn't get permission to share the story, but I'm just going to give a little instance. There was a situation what happened to this person, and it raised high anxiety. But because they would listen to our podcast, they took the situation happened, and it was very dire when they had to deal with. They didn't know what was happening. It was serious, and so they started breathing. And it calmed them down. It allowed them to get into a state where they're able to respond to whatever was about to happen. Mm-hmm. We don't have control over the outside world, but we have control how we deal with it. And we actually learn to control our physiology, like our breathing and our heart rate and everything else. It actually then stems up into how we evaluate the situation and think about it and then respond to it is immense. But if I'm worried and freaking out, I can make matters worse for the situation. So
Absolutely.
That's exactly what Mike was talking about. And we actually had a listener who emailed us a particular situation that happened, and them using this breath work actually helped them. So
not only helped them, but also the situation, the outcome, because they did inform us at the bottom of the email.
Yeah.
It turned out okay.
Yeah,
and there was no what we would see as a bad or unfortunate situation. It worked out, and it worked out in the best way it could.
Yeah.
And do you want to go into like how time, kind of like how doing something right now can affect things, even though we don't think most people would think doing something right now can't affect a situation, but it can.
It changed it ultimately.
Yeah, everything in a moment can change by how you're responding and reacting. And I'm not trying to go super deep because we're focusing this on the breath and stuff, but everything is happening
we can
now.
go super deep.
Everything
haven't stopped us before.
Yeah. Everything is happening now. And so like when you can, in a moment, center yourself, like through the breath, you're actually changing the timelines around you and the situations that are unfolding as we perceive it as real time. But in reality, real time is everything happening now.
Yeah, well, essentially that's what it is. It's like when that's a great thing.
We kind of talked about it over the weekend.
Yeah, because a situation, circumstance arises, right? And, most people look at it as, okay, this is not good. This has to be dealt with. And we're not here to argue that. But once I get into a state where I'm calm, I'm able to deal with it. That situation, circumstance actually becomes weirdly understanding, becomes a gift because it allowed me to know what level I was at. And then I'm going to keep rising to a whole nother level. So I'm able to prepare for it. And that's really what it is a circumstance, situation that arise. We're actually putting ourselves in those positions to have them arise, but we're not supposed to predict what they are because there would be no fun in life. Mm-hmm. It'd be like, trying to scare yourself. Mm-hmm. It doesn't work. But having somebody else scare you, there's something fun about that, or, it depends how your heart is, but life is that way. People are trying to figure out life. I'm like, well, there's nothing really to figure out other than maintaining your physiology and your mental purity and everything else. When you do that, life then becomes fun and interesting. When you're not in control of those things, life can sometimes be fun and sometimes not. And what I mean is there are times when I would have great ideas about stuff, and then a week later, my energy would drop. And I didn't know what was going on. And then I'm like, you know what? Obviously, God doesn't want me to do it this time. That was a story I told myself to soothe myself from feeling like a loser. And then I started realizing, no, when that idea came, I was at a higher level. Why? Well, let's see. I worked out every day that week, and I was breathing, and I wasn't conscious of it. Like, I wasn't conscious of breath work back then. And I got into a really good idea, and I was around a lot of positive people, and all of a sudden the idea came. But then when I stepped away from that, all of a sudden it started to diminish. It was my lack of maintaining the mental and physical well-being of myself that made me dip. So then I had to create another story, because here I couldn't see what I saw here. And so when I get here, my objectiveness is to get to here to act it out, not to go here. And that's what we do.
And the what Frank just described right there is like anybody and everybody who's going to these like self-help seminars, or these even like this even like the new age type of stuff that we have today, these different retreats and health things that are out there, we get all excited and pumped, and we go to these Tony Robbins events, or things like this, and the energy is just massive, and we feel like top of the world. And then a week after, when we're out and in the real world around our old friends, our old patterns, our old habits, it fizzles, and we're like, what happened?
Yeah, it's because we don't use the practice that Tony Robbins showed you there every day, and you don't need 5,000 people around you to do this. If you live in New York City, there'll be 5,000 people around you, but they won't be knowing what you're doing. And that's where
they won't be rooting you on.
Yeah, that's where the work is. That's really where the work is. So I know Dr. Joe Dispenza. He has he does like this. I don't know. It's not a podcast, but almost like a blog. It's called Leaving the Monastery. Because when you go to his seminars, he actually moved them up to like 10 days rather than 7 days.
Really?
Yeah, he's building on them.
Nice.
Because he used to do like a 2-day, a 3-day, and he realized they weren't getting the flow. But when you go to 7 days, and now he's picking up to 10, you get this momentum where you're going to go home and do this. And that's part of it. But is it necessary to go to Dr. Joe Dispenza? And the answer is absolutely not. It's a great experience. I loved it. But it's not necessary. You have to create your own, let's say, regimented life to where. But the thing is, make it enjoyable, make it fun. Yeah. But even like doing something that's difficult to me is fun now. Yeah. And that's kind of
and when things that like you would clearly never want happen to you, or just I know this on like just personally, like things that would normally we'd just say, yeah, like that sucks, like shitty situations. When they happen now, it's not the end of the world anymore. And it's not like, oh my God, this shouldn't have happened. You touched on it briefly, Frank, but you said like, you start to look at things like a gift. You're like, well, if this happened, like there has to be so much more greatness on the other side of what's to come that I don't even know about. And so you like take the blows easier. I don't know if I'm saying that the best way, but
you do. You learn to roll.
You take the punches. Yeah, it's not as bad.
You learn to roll with the punches. So and that's kind of how life is.
But you also know, like on the other side of this is something greater than I could have ever imagined. So like you take the hit and you're like, this sucks, and it doesn't take the sting out of it. Whatever is happening, it still sucks. Whether that's work, family, friends, relationship, it sucks. But you're like, all right. I know everything is working in my life, to get me, to my highest and best potential. And so now you're not reacting so much about the details of the situation. You go within, you're like, what did I learn from this? And it becomes a lesson that like launches you now, like to that next level. And beyond.
And when the blow hits, the actual blow is doing, like in boxing, I can use this from an experience. When I got hit with like a stiff jab, it was because I wasn't consciously dancing with my opponent. So that woke me up. So that's a good thing. And once you wake up, good luck getting that shot in again.
Yeah.
When you watch great fighters, you'll see a couple of good blows throughout the fight, but not rapidly until the person wears out. And why are they wearing out? They're losing consciousness as time goes on. That's the dance of any game in life. So the blow is what wakes me up. So it's a gift because I was asleep. And I don't want life just to happen to me while I'm asleep, because I'm not going to experience the elevation of my life. Like if someone did everything for me, I wouldn't appreciate the things. We all know this, right? It's like when you go off and earn your way through life, that's what's fun. When you're a kid, yeah, it was nice getting those things from your parents or Santa, where it just came to you and your expression with them. But over time, it was your focus on something, watching it manifest through different channels. And, you get to a point where you're stuck in your life because you think, the only way I can get this is to work more hours. I'm like, no, let me figure a way to make, I'm going to use money in this situation, more money and work less hours. Now you're getting exciting. And where did that come about? That came about because your rent was due and you're already working 60 hours a week. What more could you do? I'm like, can I work 70 hours a week? I'm like, yeah, I possibly can. But then, like I say, while you're renting a place, you sleep in your car because you're going to be working all the time. Mm-hmm. But how can I get clever enough? I'm up against the wall, up against, the ropes, if you will. Mm-hmm. And how do I get out of this situation? Because I have to. And those moments in the way we wake up, those moments in, say, someone like Tony Robbins' life is what made him the man he is right now, because he was in a situation where he was probably at a certain age and, and he probably thought to himself, no one's coming to save me. Mm-mm. I have to do this on my own. So he would then tell you the way he grew up was pretty harsh, was the greatest thing that ever happened to him because it made him the man he is today. And then he's sharing with you. So if you think you have it tough, I'm like, and you listen to his story or somebody else's story, I'm like, man. I'm like, I'm like a little bitch right now. And I'm complaining about shit,
I felt that way.
Yeah. And all of a sudden you realize, that's not a big deal. I actually have a leg up and I'm complaining. Mm-hmm. No. So getting punched square in the face is the greatest gift you can do because it wakes you the hell up.
It does.
It really does.
Yeah. But you also begin to perceive it that way too.
Yeah.
Not just oh my God, what is happening?
I'm a victim.
Yeah, exactly. I'm
a victim.
That's exactly it.
Yeah. I'm like, no, you just didn't duck.
You're like, yeah. And you kind of feel it. And it doesn't, it's weird. Like, it's not.
No, it's actually, because next time someone throws a punch
like, this
at you.
isn't that bad.
Yeah. I remember like when I first started fighting and especially with my dad, the guy can never miss me. And he'd throw a punch. But I remember the first time, and he wouldn't hold off on me because I was a kid. But I remember the first time he threw a punch and I slipped it. It was like the greatest thing in the world. And then he comes in with the right hand.
Yeah, come in with the other side. Yep. But for a brief moment. It
was amazing.
The sweetest feeling. I did it.
Yeah. And then he took it away from
Pop.
me. But that's how life is. But now, but that's what we want to do in life. We want to get to the place. Yeah. So therefore, what I did is they have like at the gym, they have these heavy balls that hang from a rope. And you swing them, and they come back at you. And if you're not paying attention, I think that will hurt.
Oh, yeah. That'll break a nose, too.
Yeah. So you move it, and you got to keep moving. And you're like, you let it swing by your head, and you time it, comes this way, comes that way. This is how you learn, how to move from a punch. But the only way I was really able to learn how to move from a punch is by being punched. There's no way around it. So if you want to elevate your frequency, we're going to show you a breathing technique right now.
That makes a lot of sense. You just need to do it.
Yeah, you do it.
That's the thing. You just have to do whatever you're dreaming of doing. It's getting out and doing it.
It's literally diving in, and then the world of the experience outside of you will actually is your greatest coach.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it really absolutely.
Is. It will show you. Don't give up. Just find a way around it, because all these programs that we're showing you are people going through their experiences. All right, follow them. Okay, they're good, but they're not going to be great. Why? Because you have to create your own program. Then when you create your own program, it's great. And then share it with other people, because when I share what I do, I find out more about myself. But I also tell people, make what I showed you your own. Do not keep doing the regimented aspect, because I don't. Mm-hmm. Like when I've learned Joe Dispenza's particular breathing, I do it I wouldn't say completely different, but I do it in different nuances. And even when I was at his seminar, mm-hmm. he had all the people working there, and there's like a bunch of people on stage, and even they were talking about the nuances they do. So it's not like Joe Dispenza has one particular way of doing it. No. He's telling you, like, get creative with it, because he's just giving you a platform, and then we take it and we'll see where we can go with it, work with it, see what works for you. with your physiology, with your body, with your life.
Yeah, he understands how this all works, and he would never say this is the only way. There's no such thing as the only way or the one way.
I wish my wife knew that.
but you know, like with this whole, 10 steps to get what you want, 5 things to do to be this way. There's no one size fits all, guys. There's just not, and we have to know that. Like individually, we need to be, have some common sense and realize, hey, there's no perfect formula. Everything is different. There's not one person out there like you. You are so special, and you don't even. You gotta see that in yourself. There's no one like you walking this planet, and that is such a gift. And when you start to look at it like a gift, and you embrace it as a gift, and you dive deeper and deeper into that, holy shit, get ready, because life is going to so surprise you.
Yeah, start looking at life as like the first time you got a bicycle.
Yeah.
Right? Did you just leave it in the shed or the garage? No, you took it out every day. Mm-hmm. You didn't worry about scratching. You didn't worry about any of that stuff. Once in a while, it would hose it down.
Where you're going.
Yeah, no. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. So look at your life as a bicycle, and just take it and see what you can do with it. Start jumping ramps with it and stuff.
And don't take everything so seriously too. You need to relax. You fall down, you get back up. You look like an idiot. So what? I look like an idiot. I'm gonna laugh about it. It's those types of things, because all that is it's just a mental mind pattern. Oh, I feel like I look stupid. Oh, why do I worry that I look stupid? And you trace that thought all the way back, and it's going to go back to, some point, during your life where, you did not feel worthy. That's what this all boils down to. So we have a lot of unhealed trauma patterns, old mind patterns, thought processes of the old us, and through the breath and conscious living, we are now setting a new program, and it is the new you, the improved you, the you've always been that's always been there. I don't have to, be a victim to these old thoughts, these old patterns.
Yeah, so when you create a new program, when you run the old patterns, like the old story of yourself, you almost laugh at it. Mm-hmm. It has a different filtration system through it. So it's not that you get rid of it, because you can't really get rid of anything. It's just the way I look at it. Like, there are movies you can't get rid of, but as I grow, more in my life, I actually look at movies differently now. All right, but I don't get rid of them. I just look at them differently. Like, what was scared me now makes me laugh. Like these horror movies when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Like, there was a movie called It's Alive. It was the freakiest thing I've ever seen.
That's
like,
awesome.
Yeah, this monster baby came out of this woman.
I don't remember that. I've never seen that.
Oh, it's a good thing you didn't see it. So
good thing you didn't see it.
It's horrible.
You're lucky.
The whole movie, all you see is a shadow of this monster baby, and at the very end, they show, and it was the scariest thing you've ever seen in your life.
Oh my God!
And it would eat people. Like, it literally came out of this woman's womb and attacked and bit like the doctor's neck and killed the doctor.
Shit.
Yeah, and I'm like 10 years old watching this. I don't know where my parents were at the time.
What is it?
It's called It's Alive.
Oh, that's awesome.
But now when I look at it, it's the funniest thing I've ever seen. So I didn't get rid of the movie, but now how I am, that story comes back, and I like, if I watch it now, I'd be laughing my ass off. Not like, running to mommy.
Right. But that's how a lot of these old unhealed patterns and stories are.
Yeah.
You start to see, oh my God, I can't believe how long I was being held back by this story only being kept alive by me. No one else was telling this story. No matter how many people I said were telling and talking about this story, nobody was keeping it alive but me.
Yeah, and Mike brought up a great point. So as we go through these type of modalities and techniques of breathing, and when you're breathing, you feel better, what happens is your perspective on what's going on changes. So that naturally comes about. What happens is you're actually elevating to a completely different level, to where the situation at hand, it's completely different. So the work is already done. So don't try to go back and like, why did this bother me? Like, well, who cares why it bothered you? Like, why did that slice of pizza 2 weeks ago taste bad? I'm like, I'm not going to waste my time with that. I'm just going to be better at choosing the pizzeria I go to now. It's that simple. So once we elevate ourselves higher, and through these modalities, again, these are still permission slips. It's the conscious effort of doing it that really is the key. But nonetheless, without a modality, without a practice, you would have no experience. We came here to have experiences.
What do you think is the best way to explain that how we react in a situation now is affecting everything as it's currently happening?
Because now is the only time. So that's really the truth. So right now, if I sit here and I'm worrying about a perceived future of something happening, like the government coming in and taking over my business.
Okay.
All right. And if I'm completely relying on my business to live what I consider a happy life, that's going to ding me. All right. So all of a sudden I'm thinking of that thought and I start getting a little bit of anxiety, and people are like, well, that could happen, but it's highly likely. But just say it is something that can actually happen. The government coming and take over my business is highly unlikely. But say the economy took a turn and we believe that, okay, my business might go away and it creates anxiety. I literally stop breathing because I don't want to feel the anxiety. So I stop breathing and I'll do different variances of type of breathing depending on how I feel. And all of a sudden, the feeling goes away. And then what's amazing, an idea comes to diversify myself. It's like, wow, okay, let me diversify myself. So even with that story that's false and fake out there, my diversifying will create a new way of saying, well, if this actually does happen, it won't bother me. Mm-hmm. So there is something, it's not just thoughts in your head. You're actually creating these platforms outside of you in the physical world that are going to counterbalance things, right? So for market, people didn't learn to diversify until the market crashed, right? They had all their eggs in a basket, right? All of a sudden it's like, well, how do I prevent this from again, doing this again? I'm like, well, you don't want to stop the market. You want to actually do a little bit of market, some here. So if this stock goes down, find one that goes up, and all of a sudden like, it's that simple, but you have to see where it's happening. So because I got anxiety based on something can happen to me, I started breathing and I felt better. All of a sudden, a new idea came to expand my business in a different direction. Oh my God, this is freaking cool. And then I come home and then I start exercising with people around me and pull them in, what we can do here. Now all of a sudden I realized it kept me in the present moment. I'm collaborating with other individuals. It was the process I was really looking for. So a new process came about because of a fear. Mm-hmm. Think about that. It wasn't like I started breathing, I feel good, okay, I'm going to go back. No, now a whole new idea came. That was the platform of that idea came off of this thing that created anxiety in me. So it's brilliant. So when negative thoughts come in, breathe better. All of a sudden, there's going to be something. It could almost be like the universe saying, hey, this may happen, so what are you going to do about it? Stick my head in the sand? Nah, that doesn't work. I've tried that before. It really doesn't work. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden, I'm like, okay, let me face it. When I face it and I breathe and I get rid of the anxiety, all of a sudden, idea comes to me on how, if this did happen, it wouldn't affect me in the level in which it did if I didn't have this in place. It's like, wow, okay. And so new ideas come from that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting. I just like to bring that up because it's the more that you can remain calm, the more you're actually creating a calm environment, a calm next situation. You're inviting the situations that you would like to experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you're attracting them on a small level.
Yeah, and you don't know it, but that's really what happens. So when you start to understand this process, you dive in head first. But don't try to anticipate the idea that's going to come up because you don't know it. Like, they just come out of nowhere. But they're all, know this, they're going to be in alignment with what you're doing. Yeah. So if you're starting a business or you're in a business, you're trying to amplify the business, the idea won't be outside of that. It'll be within that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Should we show? I'm going to show a short clip of this is Sandy, breathwork with Sandy. We're going to show you a short clip of him actually doing just one cycle of the breathing. I think he does like 7 or 8, but we'll just show you one. And again, like I said, we'll have a clip. We'll have a link for you to clip on. Check out this video if you like. And, I challenge you guys to do this once a day. If, at least once a week. Mm-hmm. And notice when you're doing how you feel. Yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable if you've never done this before. Was this the first time you've done this?
This video? Correct.
Yeah.
This morning.
Right.
First time.
How'd you feel starting out?
It was great. And so, I'm a big fan of breathwork with Sandy. I watch a ton of his stuff, and I do his stuff regularly. He's been putting out a lot of new content lately, and this was one of those videos, and I just had not seen it. I noticed that when we were doing the rhythmic breathing, it was lengthy, and there was times where I caught myself being like, "Hey, I just want to, exhale and sit or take a break," but I kept going.
Have you ever done the first part breathing where you breathe in through and start squeezing your perineum?
So I've done that in the past with you, Dr. Joe techniques, etc. So I knew how to kind of restrict and tighten, those core center muscles. And at times I would even kind of do this like lift with them in order to bring that,
the fluid
up through the spinal column, and up into the back of the, or into the top of the pineal.
Yeah, and it is a bit uncomfortable, but there's such brilliance in discomfort and I feel everyone I talk to feels this. When you actually put yourself in discomfort, there's some brilliance that comes out of it. We're gonna play this video and just listen to them. And again, like I said, you can watch the whole thing afterwards.
Love it.
All right.
Welcome all of you beautiful breathing people to another guided breathwork session. This breathwork and meditation was inspired by the work of Joe Dispenza. So today's intention is to match our energy to a future reality, drawing and attracting new experiences, opportunities, synchronicities, and other beautiful people and things into our life, realizing that we are the creator of our reality. So we'll start this meditation with some nice breath holds where we inhale through the nose and we hold at the top, squeezing your pelvic floor muscles, your lower abdominals, your upper abdominals, and placing our awareness on the top of your head as we ascend this energy, moving from the survival energy into creation energy. And we'll repeat this a few times. Then we'll move on to a round of rhythmic breathing, which will be an inhale through the nose, and then exhale through the mouth. Inhale through the nose, sigh on the exhale, and then we'll follow that with a 1 minute, 30-second breath retention. So find your way to a comfortable seated position with your back straight so we can move some energy up your spine. So with a little smile of gratitude, let's get ready to change our energy into a future reality. So we'll start with a big inhale hold. In 3, 2, 1. All the way to the top and hold. Squeeze your pelvic floor muscles, squeeze your lower and upper abdominals, placing your awareness on the top of your head, ascending the energy from your lower centers into a higher vibration. Now exhale, relax, stay present.
All right. So that's a really interesting one. So there's different ways of doing it, but when you start to breathe in through your nose, slowly coming up, you start squeezing your perineum, your lower abs, your upper abs. I even go into where I start to squeeze my whole body, and you can feel pressure moving up into your head, and it's a kind of electromagnetic field force coming up, because what's happening is there's fluid moving up your spinal column because you're forcing it up. And this also helps straighten out your chakras, if you will, but it also starts putting frequency energy up into your pineal gland and starts to awaken it. They say, because it's a calcium crystalline, it looks like the size. It's like the size of it's like the size of a pea, but it looks like a pine cone. So that's why I call it a pineal gland.
Yep.
That they say is the connection to God or a higher self. Mm-hmm. But because it's calcium, fluoride
The pineal gland is the third eye too, correct?
Yeah, it's exactly, yeah.
Just for people listening.
Yeah, just about every religion pretty much uses a symbol. It's the third eye. Like, Catholics, like if you look at the Pope on his staff he has right before it curls up, at the base of that is a pine cone. Mm-hmm. That's the representation of the pineal gland. Yeah. So this is our antenna to God, if you will, and how we place it. So when you start activating that, new ideas come to you. So it's said that like fluoride in the water and in the toothpaste and stuff like that can, we know what fluoride does to calcium. It actually hardens it. That's why we use it on our teeth. It hardens our teeth because our teeth are calcium. Now the cool thing is, like, if you've been, using fluoride toothpaste, which I don't do anymore, mm-hmm. but just one session of this can crack it open like an egg. So It's not like you have to do this for years before you literally can do this. So when you're breathing in and squeezing, it feels like your head's going to pop at first. All right. So when you're not holding your breath, you're actually squeezing. It's a different feeling. So you're breathing in through your diaphragm, and then you start squeezing. You can feel pressure go up to your body, right to the top of your head. That's why you give the attention there. And after, I think he does it on this one for like 7 to 9 times. I forgot. I didn't count. But when you're done and then you go into rhythmic breathing, ideas just start flooding your head based on pertaining where you are and what you want to do. So.
And they'll be in alignment with you and your, path.
Yeah.
That's the cool part.
Yeah, and the more you do this, the more in line, and then your body gets used to staying at that level. Then what I do is I breathe in deeper. So when I do this now, I create what I call a vacuum. He didn't do this in this one. This is probably like more for people starting out. But you do this thing called the lion breath, where you breathe out, and you really create a vacuum in your body. So then when I breathe in, as I'm breathing in, I'm squeezing and stop squeezing. So I'm breathing in a little bit and I'm squeezing each center. I don't just breathe in fully and then squeeze. I'm actually breathing in, squeezing, breathing in, squeezing, squeezing, breathing in, squeezing, all the way to the top. And that's just a different way of doing it. Mm-hmm. Do this way at first just to get the feel of it, and then create your own nuance, your own subtleties in it. And you keep expanding. The antenna gets wider and wider and wider. It taps into the Akashic records, or the whatever you want to call it. The field. Yeah, so what we're tapping into literally is the field. Mm-hmm. And then the field will give you back the information what's pertaining to your life. Just like the GPS will not, like, imagine you're driving in your car and like you're on the freeway and everyone's got the GPS going, but the GPS messed up and gave you the other guy's information.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, that doesn't happen. Yep. It never happens. So this won't happen either.
Yeah,
so
I was going to say the same thing with your internal GPS. It doesn't happen.
Exactly, Sometimes stuff comes in that my wife wants. I don't know, that's just a weird thing. It's like
breaking into your GPS.
Why is this involving my wife?
Getting into the internal guidance system.
I believe she's subliminally sending messages my way when I sleep. I really do.
Sleep.
Yeah.
Programming the shit out of you.
Programming the hell out of my sleep. That's for another podcast.
The breath, especially a technique like this, is so powerful because it essentially gets you into this space where you're like, you can feel the difference. And when you can feel the difference of something, the buy-in becomes more and more. Like the buy-in is more real. And so you begin to buy in. And I remember when I really started diving into breath work, whatever that was 4 or 5 years ago, it was, I would get to this state, this level that I would feel, from the breathing. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I have never felt this good. It's like a true high, like a natural high. And it's something that you can do at any given time. It's always with you. And so the more that we can, encourage behaviors like this, when situations come up, you've got the tools you need in order to handle them.
Yeah. So with this week's breath work, stuff we're talking about here, what I encourage people to do is to create something new in their life, a new scenario, a new situation through this breath work. And over the last 2 podcasts, this being the third one, we were talking about the 7 natural needs of humans. We'll run through them really quickly. The first one is oxygen. Second one is water. Third is sleep. Fourth is food. Fifth is shelter. 6th is relationships, with yourself or whomever. And then the 7th one is creative expression. So what we're doing here is by taking this breath work, if you follow it, then get creative with it. Express it differently, how you express it, and see what happens. Experiment. Be your own scientist. When I listen to scientists discover something new, like, okay, this is cool. What it does for humanity, it opens up the possibility of what we didn't think was possible before. Now, like I was talking to a client of mine, and this new stem cell research where they're using the blood from the umbilical cord, which can be phenomenal. Like for people that were near death, it's helping them out. For people that have no problem, it can make them feel younger and stuff like that. Where before, like the way they were doing stem cell, because stem cells been around for a while, they were extracting it from the individual, so the stem cell wasn't at the level and at which it could recreate much, right? Now, again, I'm telling this as a story form, but what it's opening up is different possibilities. So if someone had an ailment and they heard about this, it generates excitement for them to maybe go seek this out, or maybe in that excitement the disease goes away. We don't know, but it's going to generate a path. But if you didn't think it's possible, and if you didn't think it was possible to make more money and from your situation right now, that's going to be a very difficult way to live life. You're going to have to figure out how to save money from not. The only way you can do that is by not spending it. I'm like, well, all of a sudden it's like, why are you making it? Why are you creating energies to not use it? Mm-hmm. And that's what life gets really. That's where we lose the creative expression. So creative expression is last on the list because it's further away from the actual need in which to survive. But without creative consciousness, or creative expression, why are we here? Mm-hmm. So everything, all 7 of those natural needs, all loop into each other. So get creative with everything, like the breath. See where it goes. Like, examine it. Don't just do it like, okay, I did my breath work today and go to work. Okay, I don't feel any different. No, examine it.
I started examining, the different 7 needs in my own ways too, like one of which being sleep. Try going to bed at 9 and getting up at 5, or try going to bed at 10:30 and get up at 7 o'clock. Change up your rhythm and see what feels good. How much more time you can get in a day. There is no one size fits all, and that's kind of the thing about this. And some days you might need to just wake up at 8. Who knows? It's not an everyday. You're not a machine.
No. Yeah, and don't treat it as such. So, like, even if you wake up and you get 2.5 hours of sleep, there's a way to get that fog out of your head by this certain particular breath work. Yeah. So, like, the second part of this breath work, the deep breathing one, would be one way to do that. It really would work. Because you're actually, in this case, you're breathing in deep into your nose and, like, sighing out your mouth. I believe he does like 30 of those. Yeah. And then from there, you breathe in deep, you hold it, you squeeze for like 15 seconds, and then when you let it out, he's doing what they call a retention breath for 1.5 minutes. Mm-hmm. And 1.5 minutes sounds like a lot, but after you go through 30 breaths of these 30 cycles of this breathing, it's not that difficult. You almost forget you're doing it.
I was going to say, I remember this morning, it went by really fast.
It went really quick. Remember, I never came out of it.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's real, and I think, that's what they call samadhi. Yeah. I didn't go into samadhi by any stretch of the means, but I held my breath, my retention breath, a lot longer than I have before. But I wasn't thinking about it. I completely lost it and realized, oh my God, it ended. Mm-hmm. And I came out of it, and I'm like, this is kind of funny.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, and that, to me, that was a treat. It wasn't something I was trying to shoot for.
Exactly.
But
you touch on that a lot, Frank. You want to go into experiences without a specific strong needed outcome.
Yeah.
When you go into a situation, open to any situation, open to the experience, not here to get something out of it. That changes how you experience whatever that situation may be.
Yeah, the formula for life I love that Bashar talks about is follow your excitement as far as you can with zero insistence on the outcome. Mm-hmm. There's different ways of saying it. But the zero is, because when you follow your joy, you're just in the state of joy. But the outcome always, when you do this, always works out better than your mind can even imagine. At least it'll land right on where you imagined it.
Mm-hmm.
It usually doesn't fall below. But if you actually hold on tight to it has to look this way, and I've seen people do this, and the situation for most people turned out better, but they were holding on to this way it looked, and it didn't look that way, so their better was worse.
Mm-hmm.
But because they weren't open to it, and then they suffered for it. It's like, yeah, don't do that. Like, shoot for the stars. If you get to the moon, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing, right? So completely be open to everything and just focus on how you feel. And I'm telling you, when you breathe on a regular basis, it brings you into a conscious state. For one, you're present because we obviously breathe when we're not aware of it. But when you actually start consciously breathing, you're present. You cannot be not present if you're breathing in deep and squeezing. You have to be there. Very little negative thoughts can come into you. If they do come in, they just slip on by. I don't have time for them right now.
I do this meditation in the morning where it talks about, when you're focused on your breath, there's no way to not be in the present moment because, you can't breathe in a past breath and you can't breathe in a future breath. You can only breathe in the breath now.
Yeah.
And I love that because that's the truth. Anytime I find my mind racing or anything like that, and I'm trying to center myself, the only way that I have found that can immediately bring me back to that breath or bring me back to that state is through the breath. Yeah,
and remember, and when you're doing this, when thoughts come into your head, they're still going to come in, but it's going to be like that 3-year-old kid that's trying to get your attention, but you're in the middle of doing something. You can easily compartmentalize it. It just goes away. It doesn't bother you. All right? It's like when you're on the phone with somebody and the kid's like, hey, get my attention. Yeah, the kid's not in harm. I don't need to give them attention. But they're there, but they're not pulling me. I could still have a great conversation with whomever's on the other side of the phone without having to yell at the kid, stop it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times when people meditating, these thoughts keep coming in. I'm like, yeah, they're not going to stop, but just don't grab them. Just watch them go on by. The goal isn't to stop you thinking. The goal is to let your thoughts go, to keep letting it go, like a cloud, like the sky allows the clouds to just float on by, but more are coming.
It's kind of like one of those old cartoons, when they plug a hole in a sinking ship and more water starts coming in. When you're trying to catch your thoughts, you're trying to plug every hole and it's just, they're a different. Yeah. And you're going to drive yourself nuts. I remember going through that. The trick is not to stop it. It's to realize, those don't matter.
Yeah.
you know, and you rise above. You kind of float above it.
Yeah, that's what the life raft is. The life raft is like the boat. The life raft doesn't have holes in it, so I'm good. And that's kind of the state we're getting. So all these practices were given to you, such as the 1 minute breathing. Anyone who hasn't listened to the previous podcast, you just take a stopwatch for 1 minute, and you try to get as close as you can to 7 breaths per minute in and out your nose. And this new breath work we're going to send to you, it's a different dynamic of breathing. It's more aggressive. See what happens. Do it. I'm okay, I'm going to do this. Don't be I'm expecting to feel like I could run a multi-billion-dollar company. I'm no, that's not the goal. The goal is, how did I feel prior and how did I feel after? Mm-hmm. In everyone I've done breath work with, even one session, had them breathe in and out 3 times. I said, okay, notice how you feel now, and I have them running through it, and they'll do it. I'm how do you feel now? A little bit better. Even if it's a little bit better, I'm isn't a little bit better than nothing? You don't feel worse, And all of a sudden it's yeah. I'm well, keep doing it, and then get creative with it, because in the act of having to breathe and consciously breathe differently, I have to be present. So there is something about this present awareness of now that creates all the magic in the world. But if you go to a show where you're watching a magician and you keep looking at your cell phone, you're going to miss the whole act. Because you're distracted. And that's what we do, is we miss the magic in the world because we're so in our heads. But breath can take us back to that awareness. Working intricately with something can bring it as well. So we're just showing you modalities that are permission slips. But again, like I said earlier, without the permission slip, there would not be an experience. What's your experience when you're sleeping? There is none, because you're completely in this peaceful place until the dreams come in. And those are right before you wake up. Man, I got some freaking blockbusters in my head too. Yeah, it's crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
Hey, our dreams all mean stuff too. That's the cool part.
Yeah, what's funny is I'll have dreams where I'm like still in these circumstance situation that people would not necessarily deem to be good, but it doesn't bother me anymore, which shows that it doesn't affect me.
Yeah.
Where before I'm like, oh my God, I would walk around all day like after like a crazy dream, like, oh my, I had this freaking crazy dream. Like you think it's possible.
It rattled you all day.
Yeah. But now it's like I laugh at it. Like that was a funny cartoon. Like,
That's the only way we can look at them.
Yeah. So, keep on breathing. And also, you have any questions or comments about anything?
Or share your story. We love hearing, especially as you're going through this this different breathwork stuff. You're going to notice a lot of big changes. You'll see things, especially if you begin to implement this on a regular basis. So as those things start to, unfold for you, share them, because we'll share them here on our platform. So others listening in, they can all share in the excitement of what's going on, because it's through our personal stories that people can relate, and it's exciting.
Yeah, that's why Mike and I do this podcast, because we like to share our experiences. Not that we think we know more than anybody else. We absolutely don't. I know very little, but I'm curious about life, and through that curious, I wake up most every day excited. When I wake up on a day I'm not exciting, I know how to get excited by breathing or doing what my wife wants me to do.
Or you won't be breathing.
Yeah, we'll be breathing, yeah. And I don't know why I keep using my wife. She's an easy target because she's not here.
She's not here to defend herself.
No, yeah.
That's why.
She's a very lovely woman.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, she knows.
Yeah.
To hang, she has to be.
Yeah.
To be with you, man.
Yeah.
She's got to balance out your craziness.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, though, this is something that each and every one of us will find immense, change. It's going to make you feel more centered. It's going to make you perform in ways you never thought were possible. It's going to slow things down when you thought they couldn't be slowed down. And it's going to provide you an immense amount of peace.
Yeah. So, I challenge you guys to do this breath work technique that we send you for breath work with Sandy. Again, there'll be a link below that you can touch onto it. It's on YouTube. And then do that. And then I challenge you to do this. After the breath work is done, examine your thoughts, your beliefs that you have that have been holding you back. Just examine them. Also examine the 7 natural needs of humans. So it goes from oxygen, water, sleep, food, shelter, relationship, creative expression. Examine those and how it pertains to you, and watch what comes from it.
Yeah.
That's the contemplated part. Don't think about them. Just examine them. Don't overlook at them. All right? And we love to hear your comments. So you could go to perspectiveshift2020@gmail.com and send it to us, or there's probably some way you could DM us. I'm not really. Where do we?
We don't get the DMs directly.
Yeah.
Our social media manager, my girlfriend Kayla,
Yeah.
she gets them. So when you do, we get copies. She'll screenshot it. She'll group text Frank and I. But Frank and I we have the email linked to our actual emails on our phone. So we see the emails when we come in, and we each read them on our own phones and stuff. We're a little bit slower with like a direct message on Instagram or Facebook or something like that.
I'm a lot slower.
Just because we're not actively managing those accounts each day. So if you want a quick response, or if you want to share something with us, shoot us an email at perspectiveshift2020@gmail.com.
Yeah. All right. Well, just remember to keep breathing, people.
We'll see you guys next week.
All right. Peace out.
Thanks, guys.